is Jorb. I love gear. That includes EURORACK, and that includes the subject of today's video, the Castor and Pollux dual Juno-inspired oscillator by a company called Winterbloom that I had not heard of until I was researching dual oscillator modules, and I came across this. At the time, it wasn't out yet, and I did something I've never really done. I pre-ordered gear. Can you believe that? I buy everything used, but the features of this and the descriptions of this sounded so perfect for what I was looking for in a EURORACK oscillator that I broke my rule and I pre-ordered it, and to be honest, I really love it. It's not just the fact that it's two oscillators, it's the design and the features around that make it so special, and that's all I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the features and some sound examples as I go along, and only one or two examples of clever or tricky ways to use it. So if you're subscribed, which is not the majority of you, I appreciate you watching. We're cresting 2,000. Feel really proud of that. But if you aren't subscribed, I ask that you look around a little bit, see if there's anything else on the channel that interests you. I'm going to talk more about EURORACK as I mature in my own understanding of it and my strategies, my angles, and things like that. So if you made it this far in the video, I think you've already proved that this content is value to you. So I wouldn't say that I'm new to EURORACK, but I haven't talked about it much because I'm not super confident in how wide my breadth of knowledge is, but I feel very comfortable with Castor and Pollux at this point, so that's what we're talking about today. So to talk about the whole patch, before we really get into it, I have pitch coming in Castor and Pollux. It is then going out to the first channel of this Quad VCA. Don't need this right now. Which is being controlled by the first channel of the Quadra, which is just an ADSR envelope right now. And then that output is going into the Deopfer SEM, which is going here. And my good friend the O-Tool, which I'll put on an oscilloscope. There we are, into the O-Tool, and the O-Tool goes into the Echoz, which is simple mono delay. It'll be off for a lot of this. Okay, and the filter is being controlled by the Lifeforms ADSR, which gets triggered from the same gate. Follow the purple. Can you see that? Super, super simple. Okay, so the features of the Castor and Pollux. So from top to bottom, we've got an input for your pitch, and then a knob to tune it as well. Input for pulse width, and a knob to control it. And then you have individual outputs of a sawtooth, a variable pulse, and a sub-oscillator 1 octave down. And the trim pots next to each of these are volumes for a mixer. And that mixer for the left channel comes out of here, and the right channel comes out of here. So let's listen. That is just sawtooth. Just our pulse. Just our sub-oscillator. Lovely. And the right side is identical to that, okay? But everything in the middle is about controlling them together, having them interact. So this bottom trim pot is a crossfader between these two mixed outputs. There's just the sawtooth on the left, and let's turn up to just a pulse on the right. Hope you can see. Oops, I had the sub on as well, but you get the point. You can mix them together. This top button is for hard sync. Okay, we'll turn that off. Tune everybody back together. Which is very easy. These are like, I don't know the right word to call it, but the travel of the pot, the curve of the pot. You get more precision in the middle where you would expect these to be lining up. And then this knob here is a variable chorus, a detune on the second oscillator. So let's turn it up. Let's go back to just saw. And it's driven by an internal LFO. You can change the speed of that LFO by holding the hard sync button and moving the trim pot for a chorus. See the rate that the LEDs are flashing. Let's make it really dramatic and really fast. that is certainly part of the Juno-inspired part. Of this oscillator, and you can also assign that internal LFO to the pulse width. So as I go past 50% of this trim pot, it lights up over here. Same thing on the left side. Let's just do it on the right, and let's only turn up the output for the pulse. There we go. A little steppy. Let's get back to just sawtooth. But to kind of summarize that again, this isn't just 2 oscillators. It's 2 oscillators and 3 mixers and heartsink and an LFO and attenuators. God knows how many attenuators, all in just 14 HP. The only minor complaint, if I had to like go looking for one, I had an issue today where I was noticing the only minor complaint I could find so far, if you do big octave jumps, they're sort of right at the attack. There's like an artifacting. Sent an email to Winterbloom, and I was responded, I'm not joking, within minutes. Instantly, I had a response that was, hey, there are internal settings for a smoothing of CV that you can control with a web editor, and I hadn't done that. So here's on screen a little phone video I took while I was updating the firmware for this and changing some of the settings for that CV smoothing to clear up some of the noise and change in CV is how it was described to me, and I got it a little better than it was. I still notice it if I'm really looking for it. There's also most patches where you would never notice it unless somebody pointed it out and you were really, really looking for it. I don't consider that to be a problem. Just be aware that there's things like that. And maybe, again, if we're being nitpicky, let's get the filter all the way open again. I noticed some sort of weird stepping in the pulse width. With the internal LFO, again, it's not the end of the world, just something to be aware of. But otherwise, I don't have anything to complain about. It's so surprisingly feature rich. I'm not super deep into EURORACK, so I don't know if there's a million other dual oscillator modules that I haven't heard about, but the features of this, relative to the size you get, is incredible. And if you're going to complain about trim pots, this is pretty much exactly as lean as this can be. Pitch in, which gets copied over to the right side as well, and just using the mix out, I don't have any problem getting to any of these knobs. Sure, if I had a couple more things in there, but that's nothing new for EURORACK. It's always hard to reach through your cables. Okay, I digress. Okay, and I'm going to do another little example here where I'm going to use both channels independently. So give me a second to set that up. How's that look? I now have my key step, my Behringer swing, plugged into the pitch is going to here, the pitch of oscillator 2 of the Pollux side, and the gate is triggering 3 and 4 on the Quadra, which are controlling the filter and VCA respectively. The first channel is the same. The left channel is essentially exactly the same, except now they're going into channels 1 and 2 of this Suit and Tie Guy .mix, which is then going into the echoes. I've tuned them now. Let's see, we're out. went on too long, and it wasn't very good. So I'll chop up what actually was. There you go. So without doing super complicated patches or figuring out any insane sequences, I'm very fond of this oscillator, and I don't see myself putting anything else in its place for a very long time, mostly because the features are so handy. So to summarize my whole experience, this sounded amazing on paper. I pre-ordered it from Perfect Circuit. I got it not that much after they had come out at all. I had one support request, and it was filled in minutes. I'm not joking you, minutes. So huge kudos to the developers. Huge kudos to Winterbloom. She did a great job understanding my problem and saying, hey, this is what you might need to try next in no time. So everybody, that's it. My name's Jorb. I love gear. This was sort of my first, hey guys, I like EURORACK. I really want to talk about this module that I love that I haven't seen covered in too many places. My name is Jorb. I love gear. I'll see you in the next one.